Okay, so I wanted to start off this interview by asking you, like, what is your name and like how long have you been here in San Diego?
I'm Heather Ferbert. I am a resident of San Diego for about 20 years now. I moved here for law school. I grew up in Orange County.
Yeah, so diving straight into the 2024 election, what makes you like a standout candidate? Like, why should people vote for you?
So I'm running for San Diego City Attorney. I'm a chief deputy city attorney in the city attorney's office today. I've been with the office almost 10 years. And a lot of people don't know how important the city attorney's office is or what we do. We represent the city, we represent the mayor, the council members, all the city departments in all of their legal work. And every time the city gets sued, we're defending those cases. So think about people who trip and fall on the sidewalk, or stormwater when a storm drain breaks and the property floods, all those kinds of lawsuits we are defending. And then we have another branch that prosecutes criminal misdemeanors. So those are really important cases. It's DUI cases, domestic violence cases. And so we are making sure that people who are offenders under those kinds of crimes are being held accountable. And so that hopefully they learn and they don't go on and have more DUIs and, hopefully they learn their lesson right and they're not coming back and having another incident where they drive under the influence and, hopefully nobody gets hurt seriously or anything like that. So it's a really important office. We do a lot of really amazing things. And I think that it's really important that we have a city attorney who knows what we do, knows how the city works, is an experienced lawyer in the area of law that the city works in. And that's been my entire career, is doing local government legal work. And I also think it's really important that we have a city attorney whose values are aligned with the values of our community. We all know that housing and homelessness are two of the biggest problems facing San Diego right now. I've worked on those issues my entire career. I'm ready to hit the ground running, and I want to make real change to make people's lives here better.
Yeah, so thank you for the answer. I heard that you mentioned the like idea of homelessness. So I was gonna ask you, like, as you're running for city attorney, like, how will you solve the homelessness problem as it is a huge problem in San Diego?
Homelessness is a huge problem in San Diego, and it is a problem that is going to require all of our agencies, all of our partners to come together, to work together, to continue to find ways to help people. Housing is a huge part of the homelessness crisis. We need to build more housing. We need to provide opportunities for people to be able to afford housing. So one of the things that I've announced that I want to do from the city attorney's perspective is to create a housing protection unit, because if we don't have enough housing, then the housing costs go up and it's harder and harder for people to find housing. And we're seeing people amongst our homeless population who are seniors and who are now priced out of apartments that they used to be able to afford on their fixed incomes. And we're seeing young families who can't afford it because there's been a job loss or something else has happened, medical bills, and now they can't afford to live in the home that they were securely living in. And that's not right. So I want to make sure that we're protecting the housing we have, in addition to knowing we need to build more. If we lose housing, that's just going to make it even harder for people to find places where they can live within their means. So I want to launch a housing protection unit to really look at all of the properties that we have and make sure that property owners are using them for legal uses, that they're making sure that they're habitable and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing for their tenants. We have a new tenant protection ordinance, and landlords need to be complying with it to make sure tenants can stay in their homes. And I think it's really important. When I was a deputy city attorney when the pandemic hit, one of the things I worked on was writing San Diego's eviction moratorium to make sure that our workers who couldn't work during the pandemic because of mandatory closures, that they weren't going to be evicted and find themselves homeless at that point in time just because they couldn't pay rent. And so we put protections in place that made sure that they could stay in their homes and that they wouldn't wind up homeless during the pandemic, which would have been terrible outcome. And so we protected those families and those workers, and it was really important work. And I want to continue to do that and to make sure that we are looking out for people to make sure that that housing is available to them.
Yeah. So on the topic of like trust, like how are the constituents of like San Diego trust you that like you will protect not only them but like also like the homeless, the elderly, and like everyone?
So the city attorney's office is an independent office, and it's really unique in that And there's elected city attorneys around California, but there's not a lot of them. But the voters having a right to vote on the city attorney really is the best mechanism for the voters to feel that they have picked a candidate who will carry their values, who they can trust, who they believe will provide the best legal advice for the city. And when we think about the city, we think about who our client is, and it's the corporate city, right, as an agency, but we're also looking out for all of the parts of that. And that's the electeds and the departments and the staff, but it's also our constituents. And I think that when we are providing legal advice and doing the legal work, we always have to keep an eye out for what's in the best interest of the city in that whole portion of things. So not just one elected official, but the city as a whole. And so if we are engaged, if the city wants to engage in something that is a very big risk that could cost the taxpayers a lot of money, they need to know and they need to be informed so that they make that decision, that they don't make that decision lightly, so that they think it through and they think, is the risk really worth it for the benefit to our constituents? And I think that it is really important that they have that trust and that belief that the city attorney knows what they're doing and is strong enough to stand up to the politics that happens and is willing to look out for the city as a whole, which includes their interests, which their interests are the most important portion. That's why we do the work we do as the city. We do all this work for our constituents. Every time your trash gets picked up and your streets get swept, that's all for the constituents to make sure that they're safe, healthy, that their needs are being met on the local government level.
Yeah, so I saw that like the city attorney's office like operates like within like budget constraints. So I was wondering like how do you plan to like manage resources efficiently while also like ensuring that like the delivery of quality like legal services to the city and like to the constituent?
You have hit on the issue that plagues every city department. We're always being asked to produce as much as we can for the least cost available. I think it's really making sure that we are aligning our work with the policy direction of the people in the city who make the policy, which is the mayor and the council. And that's done through the budget. And so I think it's really important that the city attorney look at that budget as a guiding document on how to align our resources so that we can be efficient and that we can do the work quickly and try to make the goals of the council and the mayor and the departments as quickly as we can. And if we are looking at that budget, we can predict to some extent what work is coming our way, right? If we see a budget item to do a new big construction project for the city, we know that we're going to need to put some more resources towards that to make sure we are supporting the departments that are going to be tasked with carrying out that work. And I think that's really important. I also think it's really important that we have a strong city attorney who's going to lobby for the budget that they need to run the office efficiently and effectively. And so I think that that's a key component of what the next city attorney will be doing as well.
Yeah, so I know you mentioned the word mayor, so that kind of leads me right into my next question. So like how do you envision like working collaboratively with like the city council and the mayor's office to achieve like shared goals and also like navigate legal challenges efficiently?
Yeah, I think that relationship is really important. Whenever you're working in an attorney-client relationship, there needs to be trust, there needs to be confidentiality, and we need to have clear lines of communication. I think it's important to have constant open lines of communication between our elected departments, our elected officers, and our office. One of the things the current city attorney did was to create a council relations division, and she appointed an assistant city attorney, and I'm the chief deputy city attorney in that group. And our job is to work with the council members directly so they know exactly who in our office to call when they have a legal question. And we are there to help them navigate to get them the best legal advice and connect them with the right lawyers, because we have 170 lawyers in our office and it can be hard to figure out who the right person to talk to is. And so we're trying to bridge that gap so they know they can call me or the assistant city attorney who I report to and get an answer. If they have a land use question, we connect them with the appropriate land use lawyer so that they're getting the best legal advice they can, and they're not having to spend a lot of time. Are you the right person? Or are you the right person? And we can help bridge that gap and help provide them that information quickly so that they can keep moving on their priorities. And I think the same is true of the mayor. We have an assistant city attorney who has really close connections with the mayor and is and able to talk to them, and our city attorney meets with them. And I think that it's important that the next city attorney do that too, keeping those lines of communication open, trying to find solutions to problems and not just saying, no, we don't think we can do it. I think making sure that we're looking for paths to meet their policy goals is really important as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me to like how you guys like bridge the gap between one another. Like really interesting. So like on the topic of like your views, like what are your views on like criminal justice reform? Like how do you envision the city attorney's role in like promoting fair and like equitable outcomes within like the criminal justice system?
I like that question. Thanks for asking. I think that we have come to realize that there is a level of trust between law enforcement and the criminal justice system in our community that is missing. And I think we as a city and as a community need to work together to try to rebuild that trust. And I think it's looking at how we engage in the system and how steps are done to try to bridge that gap and build that trust. I think there's one thing that I've been looking at in particular with respect to pretext stops. There's a lot of evidence out there in a lot of cities who have determined that engaging in pretext stops where there's no reasonable suspicion of criminal activity and you're just pulling over a car because it's in a neighborhood and it happens to match it doesn't match a description. Maybe they rolled through a stop sign. We all roll through stop signs from time to time. And is that really a basis to pull someone over and engage in extra questioning? And does it really improve public health, public safety? And the evidence is showing that it doesn't, and it actually decreases community trust and tends to escalate into some of the terrible interactions that we've seen in the news between law enforcement and community members. And I think that's one area where our office could work closely with the mayor and the San Diego Police Department to see what changes could be made that might make that process better. Are there areas there that we can do some reforms to try and improve trust, improve efficiencies? Our officers, we are short on officers. I feel terrible. I know that they're understaffed and they work really hard and they're trying to keep our community safe. And so, I want to enable them to do that good work as much as they can. And so I think it's collaborative effort and continuing to have a conversation is also really important, and seeing what we can do to work together collaboratively to improve those relationships and community trust and keep our community safe, which is critically important.
Yeah, as like a follow-up question to my previous question to your answer, like how do you plan to engage with like involve like the community and the constituents in decisions made by like the city attorney offices like may impact like the residents' lives and like their rights or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely plan to have an open door policy. I would like to meet with community members. Our office engages, our prosecution portion, our criminal division engages in neighborhood community meetings. And so we have prosecutors in the community listening to community concerns. And I think that that's a really important portion of what we do, because the people in the community are the ones who know what's going on and what needs to be improved, what's not working. And I think having the open door and listening and communicating and continuing to look into what other jurisdictions are doing that's working well and hasn't had some of the negative consequences that we worry about on either side of the discussion. I think it's really important to kind of like listen to each other and look at what's happening and try to work through some of the emotions that go along with the topic as well. And so that we're really looking at solutions that could be implemented here that have succeeded for everybody involved.
Yeah, so looking at like the future and like the long term, like what is your long term like vision for the role of like the San Diego city attorneys and like the political landscape of San Diego? Like how do you hope to leave like a positive impact on like the city's legal portion or like landscape?
I think that it would be amazing that our office is regarded as providing, and I think we are, but I think that we can continue to build on this, providing high quality legal work quickly that is respected and understood, that we have good relationships with the community and the client departments and the elected officials, and that we are just doing the good work. I see the lawyer's role, any lawyer's role, as kind of that supporting role in helping the client get to where they want to go. And so if we could make lasting improvements on housing, on homelessness, on improving how the city develops land and the process to develop new housing and new buildings, on some of these other things that we've been working on our environment. I mean, there's so many areas that the city has priorities, and it's often competing and there's always limited time and resources. But I do think that we can all just continue to try and make San Diego a better place for our future, for our children. I'm a mom of a teenager. I'm constantly thinking about whether she's going to be able to afford to live here. What's it going to be like? Is it going to be a community she wants to live in? And I really just want to make it a place for all of our youth to want to be able to stay, to be able to stay and to want to stay.
Yeah, I totally agree that like, we always have to, think about like the future generations and kind of like, setting up for them. Yeah, so I was wondering, like, those are all my questions. Like, anything else you want to tell me?
I'm just really passionate about our local government. I call myself a local government nerd. I've been really passionate about this work since college even. I know that our local government impacts us on such a daily basis. If your trash doesn't get picked up or you hit a pothole, you care an awful lot, right? And that's all your local government at work. And while what our state and our federal governments are doing is really important, I think that this is so part of our daily lives, and just such an important part of that it's important work, and it's important that we have qualified people doing that work who care about the city, who want to make a positive impact. And our office does amazing work every single day. I'm so impressed with all of the attorneys I work with. They blow me away. And the same goes for the city. Like, the city staff, they really are trying. They really are trying to really just do the best we can for our constituents. And it's a great city. And I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you. Thanks for having me today. It's exciting. It's exciting to talk about.
And thank you so much, Mrs. Ferbert, for taking time out of your day to do this interview. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you.